So before we get started, we'd love to share our rap song introduction video, and we hope you enjoy.
Yeah, okay, organic base, this is what you need. Take you to the future, live a life that can be disease-free. All these toxins are taxing on our bodies, no doubt. All these GMOs and these processed foods we can live without. Yeah, wanna see you live a long time. Contaminants in our water and our food supply. From the meat to the dairy and the fish, what a shame. Not realizing that my insides were inflamed. Hold up, I know it's hard to digest, that's right. I found an organic plant-based website. I even got the app, yo, this is where it's at. Promoting a healthy life, it's time to put it on the map. Assuaged, trust you don't wanna miss. It's time for you to be your best, be your healthiest. Assuaged, trust you don't wanna miss. It's time for you to be your best, be your healthiest. Hey, Assuaged, let's go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dumisani Maraire Jr., and we are here today to have another fun discussion for the Assuaged Foundation. Today is going to be pretty interesting. We are going to be exploring the interesting topic of psychedelics. So this conversation today is going to take us on a journey into the science, history, and therapeutic potential of psychedelics. All right, let's check out what we've got going on today. I'm so excited to present our student speakers who are going to be a part of our chat today. We're going to be speaking with Lilly Valladares-Macias, and we are also going to have Chelle Dunston, who's also going to be a part of our conversation today. I'd like to welcome you both. We have, of course, our featured board members on the call today as well. Myself, Dumisani Maraire Jr. with Love Heals the World and Red Carpet Series. And we have Cynthia Cherise Murphy, the Vice President of the Assuaged Foundation, who is going to be behind the scenes, making things happen virtually. And, you know, who knows, from time to time, she may chime in as well. We're more than happy to have her a part of this conversation. And we will have Crystal Rylowicz, the director of Practicums, who's going to be a part of this conversation. Now, of course, we can't do this without our slide contributors. We have Svitlana, Mathany, who contributed to this presentation. We also have Chiao-Yin Joy Chang. Chiao-Yin, aka Joy Chang, who also contributed to this as well. Thank you very much. And we have Karizza Cordero, of course, who has contributed to this presentation as well. Thank you very much to all of the contributors and to all our speakers and the board members and everyone who's tuned in today. So, of course, a little bit about myself. My name is Dumisani Maraire Jr., and I am with, I'm a celebrity photographer, and I also run and own Love Heals the World, which is an online arts and humanities club. We are here to support the student team. Love Heals the World, of course, is a new online arts and humanities club that's dedicated to spreading the divine healing power of love through music, blogs, and fashion. We call our club members healers because they're passionate about spreading the healing power of love. That's really all there is to that. And I just want to thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure to assist and to be a part of these projects. Of course, we have to thank the team at Restream for supporting the student team. We can't make these presentations happen without the infrastructure that they give us. So thank you very much for allowing for giving us this multi-platform streaming. Restream's powerful multi-platform restreaming capabilities have broadened our reach, connecting us with diverse communities across various social media platforms. And our message of public health and wellness now reaches those who need it the most. So thank you very much, Restream. We can't do this without you. We do have an agenda today. Woohoo! So yeah, that's a good thing. Our agenda is going to include an introduction and classification. So we're going to talk about the definition and historical use across cultures of psychedelics. We're going to look at an overview of classic psychedelics and emerging substances. Then we're going to move on to the mechanism of actions and effects. So how psychedelics affect the brain, altered perception, mood, cognition, and sensory experiences. Our third part of our agenda will be the therapeutic potential, legal landscape, and challenges that are involved with psychedelics. So there's a historical and recent research. We have the legal status of psychedelics worldwide and the stigma and misinformation of psychedelics. The fourth part of our agenda will be a conclusion and student discussion, probably my favorite part, where we recap the key points and we have the encouragement for responsible exploration and continued research, and we discuss some questions. So that's our agenda for today. Once again, thanks to everyone who's tuned in. We are going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. And first up today, we have our board member, Crystal Rylowicz, who's going to be giving us an introduction to psychedelics.
Hi, welcome. We are going to talk about the introduction to psychedelics. A definition and classification of psychedelics include psychedelics or hallucinogens alter perception, mood, and thinking. They bring profound changes in thought, senses, and emotions, often leading to heightened awareness and different consciousness. They are categorized by structure and effects like serotonogenic, dissociative, and empathogens and actogens. Historical use in various cultures includes psychedelics possess a diverse cultural heritage spanning millennia and global regions. Indigenous communities across the Americas, Africa, and Asia have employed natural psychedelics like psilocybin mushrooms, peyote, and ayahuasca in religious, spiritual, and medicinal context. These substances featured prominently in rituals and shamanic traditions, facilitating divine connection, insight, and therapeutic healing. Types of psychedelic substances. An overview of classic psychedelics. LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide, is a synthetic compound inducing profound alterations in perception and consciousness. Psilocybin is a naturally occurring compound found in magic mushrooms, causing altered perception and euphoria. DMT, dimethyl dimethyltryptamine, is a powerful hallucinogenic compound found in various plants and animals, inducing intense psychedelic experiences. And our image shows that it is in plants, animals, and drugs. Types of psychedelic substances. Emerging interest in novel substances. Interest in novel substances, particularly psychedelics, has been growing steadily in recent years due to their potential therapeutic effects and the exploration of their impact on mental health. Here are some examples of this emerging interest. Research chemicals. Synthetic compounds similar to classic psychedelics, such as 2C-B, 25I-NBOME, with limited research on safety. NMDA receptor antagonist, Are substances like ketamine with psychedelic effects explored for therapeutic potential? Novel serotonergic psychedelics are new compounds such as 5-MeO-DMT, lysergamides, ACT, on serotonin receptors with varying effects. Microdosing compounds, sub-perceptual doses of classic psychedelics such as LSD and psilocybin for cognitive and mood enhancement. The mechanism of action. How do psychedelics affect the brain? Psychedelics like LSD and psilocybin alter brain activity by binding to serotonin receptors, particularly the 5-HT2A receptor. This leads to changes in perception, mood, and cognition by disrupting everyday communication between brain regions, resulting in the vivid visual and sensory experiences associated with a psychedelic trip. Serotonin receptor interaction. This binding alters the activity of serotonin, a neurotransmitter involved in mood regulation and perception, leading to changes in brain function and the psychedelic experience. The effects of psychedelics. Psychedelics induce a wide array of effects on the mind and body, ranging from altered perception and mood to profound spiritual experiences and potential therapeutic benefits. The altered perception includes heightened visual perception and enhanced sensory experiences, distortions in time, space, and body image, and effects vary based on individual factors and context. Next, we explore the mood. It reduces negative mood, increases positive mood, and reduces the amygdala response to harmful stimuli. Next, we will look at cognition. It is altered through altered thought patterns and cognition, increased creativity and introspection, potential for both positive and changing experiences. Next, we look at visual experiences, including elevated visual acuity, intensified hues, motifs, and textures, distorted forms, dimensions, and motions. And lastly, we look at sensory experiences, which include sharper senses, more intense feelings when touching things, and hearing things differently. Now we will talk about psychedelics and mental health. The historical and recent research on therapeutic potential includes research on the therapeutic potential of psychedelics has a rich history, with recent studies renewing interest in their medicinal use. Historical use in indigenous cultures for spiritual and healing purposes. Recent resurgence in scientific interest in therapeutic applications, and studies exploring efficacy and safety across various mental health conditions.
All right, thank you very much, Crystal. So we are going to move on to the next part of this, which is the psychedelics and mental health. And to help us with that, we have Lilly. Lilly, welcome.
Hi, so continuing on with psychedelics and mental health, here are some studies on anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Anxiety. Research indicates the potential for psychedelics to reduce symptoms of anxiety disorders. Studies investigating mechanisms of action and long-term effects. Depression. Clinical trials show promise in treating depression with psychedelics. Mechanisms involving neuroplasticity and serotonin modulation. PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. Studies demonstrating effectiveness in alleviating PTSD symptoms. Exploration of psychedelic-assisted therapy approaches. A growing body of evidence supports the therapeutic potential of psychedelics. Ongoing research to better understand mechanisms and optimize treatment protocols. Risks and challenges. Here are some potential adverse effects. Psychedelics can cause high blood pressure, increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, make individuals hallucinate, and can cause harm to oneself or others when hallucinating. There is also a possibility of overdose causing possible death. Some legal and ethical considerations to also keep in mind when it comes to psychedelics are that psychedelics are often illegal, risking legal consequences for possession and use. There is also lack of standardized doses and quality checks, which increases risk of adverse effects. Concerns include consent, participant vulnerability, and long-term effects. Non-medical use can lead to psychological harm and dependency. Social stigma may also impede research, funding, and access to therapeutic use. Recent research findings. Here's an overview of recent studies on psychedelics. Recent research highlights psychedelics' therapeutic promise in treating mental health issues like depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Studies also investigate their potential for cognitive improvement, creativity, and spiritual insight. Clinical trials reveal encouraging outcomes, including enduring benefits from single doses, opening new avenues for mental health treatment and exploration. Breakthroughs in understanding, breakthroughs, I'm so sorry, I lost myself. Breakthroughs in understanding their impact on the brain. Recent studies shed light on psychedelics' impact on neural networks and neurotransmitters. Psilocybin and LSD can enhance neuroplasticity and form new brain connections. They bind to serotonin receptors, notably 5-HT2A, altering consciousness and perception. Functional MRI scans reveal shifts in connectivity, especially in areas. I'm so sorry. If you'll give me 1 second. Especially in areas, functional MRI scans reveal shifts in connectivity, especially in areas linked to introspection, emotion, and the default mode network. Therapeutic applications. Here are some current and potential therapeutic uses. Psychedelics show promise in treating various mental health conditions, including depression, anxiety, PTSD, addiction, and existential distress in terminally ill patients. Emerging research suggests potential applications in enhancing creativity, promoting spiritual well-being, and addressing existential concerns. Clinical trials and their outcomes. Research studies testing psychedelics for therapy show good results. Substances like magic mushrooms, MDMA, and ketamine work well in controlled environments, sometimes with therapy. They help reduce feelings of depression, anxiety, and trauma, and people feel better for a long time afterward. Further research suggests that the benefits last and have few harmful side effects. Microdosing. Definition and popularity of microdosing. Microdosing involves the consumption of small doses of psychedelics, such as LSD or psilocybin mushrooms. It has gained popularity recently, particularly among professionals seeking enhanced productivity, creativity, and mental well-being. Reported benefits and risks. Reported benefits include increased focus, creativity, emotional stability, and problem-solving abilities. Evidence suggests minimal negative effects, though potential risks include legal consequences, adverse reactions, and the lack of long-term safety data. Psychedelics and creativity. Research suggests that psychedelics can temporarily alter brain function, leading to increased connectivity and novel thinking patterns conducive to creativity. Users often report experiencing enhanced creativity, divergent thinking, and a deeper appreciation for art and aesthetics. Artistic and scientific contributions. Psychedelics have been linked to artistic breakthroughs, with renowned figures like Steve Jobs and Aldous Huxley attributing their creative insights to psychedelic experiences. In scientific fields, psychedelics have inspired innovative research methodologies and contributed to groundbreaking discoveries in psychology, neuroscience, and psychiatry.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Lily. That was very insightful. We are going to continue the conversation here with the cultural and spiritual significance, and this is going to be brought to us by Shelley. Shelley, welcome. Shelley, I don't think we can hear you. Maybe the microphone might be turned off. Should I go ahead and pick it up? I can go ahead and pick it up. And Shelley, if you want to just let us know whenever you're ready, I'll go ahead and pick it up from here. All right. So we are going to discuss the cultural and spiritual significance of psychedelics. So psychedelics in religious and spiritual practices. Throughout history, various cultures have incorporated psychedelics into religious rituals and spiritual ceremonies for purposes such as healing, divination, and transcendent experiences. Substances like ayahuasca, peyote, and psilocybin mushrooms have played integral roles in indigenous traditions and contemporary spiritual movements, shaping cultural movements. Psychedelics have influenced cultural movements such as the counterculture of the 1960s, leading to shifts in art, music, literature, and social norms. Today, psychedelics continue to inspire movements advocating for mental health reform, drug policy reform, and the exploration of consciousness. Legal landscape. Legal status. Psychedelics are classified differently across the globe, ranging from illegal to controlled substances, regulated. Recent years have seen shifts in attitudes and policies towards psychedelics, with some jurisdictions decriminalizing or legalizing their use for therapeutic or religious purposes. Debates persist regarding the potential benefits versus risk of legalizing psychedelics, with concerns around public health, safety, and societal impact. Harm reduction and education. Informed use. Education about psychedelics is crucial to ensure users understand dosage, effects, and potential risks. Safe use. Harm reduction practices aim to minimize negative experiences and promote responsible usage. These include testing substances, practicing mindfulness, and accessing support services. Resources. Various organizations and online platforms provide resources for harm reduction and education, offering information, community support, and access to trained professionals. Psychedelics and neuroscience. Brain imaging studies. Advances in neuroscience have enabled researchers to investigate the neural mechanisms underlying psychedelic experiences through techniques such as functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, and positron emission tomography, PET. Implications. Findings from neuroimaging studies offer insights into how psychedelics affect brain function, including changes in connectivity, neurotransmitter systems, and the default mode network. All right. Now, there are challenges in psychedelic research. Challenges in psychedelic research encompass funding and regulatory hurdles, restricting access to resources, and impending progress. Addressing stigma and misinformation remains crucial as societal bases hinder acceptance and support. Overcoming these obstacles requires advocating for increased funding and streamlining regulatory processes to facilitate research. Education campaigns are vital to dispel myths and misconceptions, fostering a more informed understanding of psychedelics' potential benefits. By tackling these challenges head on, researchers can advance the field and pave the way for responsible exploration of psychedelic therapies. All right. Future directions. Promising areas for future research in psychedelic for psyched sorry. Promising areas for future research in psychedelics include exploring therapeutic applications beyond anxiety, depression, and PTSD, such as addiction and eating disorders. Advancements in psychedelic science could lead to more targeted therapies and innovative delivery methods, revolutionizing mental health treatment. The perception of psychedelics in science and medical communities has evolved positively with increased recognition of their therapeutic potential and efforts to destigmatize their use. Key developments shaping the current landscape include a resurgence of interest in psychedelics, leading to more clinical trials and interdisciplinary collaboration to explore their effects on the brain and behavior. In conclusion, we have a recap of the key points here. We have provided a detailed overview into the diverse world of psychedelics from their historical roots to the modern therapeutic potential. We have explored their mechanisms of action, effects on mental health, and cultural significance. While acknowledging the risks and legal challenges, we emphasize the importance of informed exploration and safe usage. Let's continue to foster responsible exploration and support ongoing research into these fascinating substances. Doing so can further unlock their therapeutic benefits and contribute to our understanding of consciousness and mental health. All right, so we are going into the question period of our discussion here, where we can discuss with some of the students here. So first two questions here, we have how do cultural perceptions of psychedelics influence uh, your acceptance and research in different societies? Cultural attitudes towards psychedelics vary widely, impacting policies, research funding, and public perceptions. In some cultures, psychedelics have deep-rooted spiritual or medical significance, fostering more favorable attitudes and research initiatives. Conversely, in societies where they're stigmatized or associated with recreational drug use, regulatory barriers and funding restrictions may hinder scientific exploration. Second question is what ethical considerations arise when conducting clinical trials involving psychedelics, particularly in vulnerable populations? Ethical dilemmas in psychedelic research include ensuring informed consent, minimizing risks, and protecting participants' well-being. In studies with vulnerable populations like those with mental illness, extra safeguards are needed to ensure autonomy and mitigate potential harm. It is crucial to weigh the positive effects of psychedelic therapy against ethical values like doing good and fairness to ensure research is done responsibly. All right, so those are the two questions here. How do cultural perceptions of psychedelics influence their acceptance? And second question here is what ethical considerations uh, arise when conducting clinical trials involving psychedelics? So we're talking about cultural and ethical effects here. And hello, everybody. Great to see you. All right. So let's see. Do we have anyone who has any input on these two questions? Any cultural perceptions and any ethical considerations?
Yeah, I'll chime in. I found it very interesting with the cultural perceptions because really what we are dealing with is that cultural diversity. And some religions and some cultures do believe in using this as a medicine rather than popping pills all day long. And so I found that very interesting, especially. Learning that they have deep rooted spiritual and medicinal significance um, because I'm not familiar with psychedelics at all. And then on the other hand, you have to have ethical considerations when you're dealing with any medicine. Whether it is legalized or not, and you have a duty to protect your participants in these trials like the Tuskegee trial, where all of those men they lied to and told them different things. And so that made people not want to participate in these study trials anymore. And I'm leaving a lot of detail out of that Tuskegee study, but I do know that they were offered money, and a lot of those people died, and their spouses were awarded money and even living children. And now most of them participants are gone. And so even when you don't take that into consideration, what good does money do for surviving members of the family when they don't have their loved ones, because important medical information and ethical considerations are being kept from participants? So I would definitely like to see, that improved a lot. Thank
It's
you.
understandable. Yeah. Um, the Tuskegee one is a little deep. I know there's a lot to that one. Um, from my understanding, they 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 didn't give them psychedelics, so I don't know. Like I think when it comes to like actual testing of psychedelics, I don't see much of an ethical problem with that. But what they did at Tuskegee, obviously not ethical. But that was completely. I think that was just something a little different. Anyway, any other contributions? What else? If you have any other input as
Yeah.
well.
So I just want to say that I really think that when it comes to stuff like psychedelics and even marijuana, which can be really controversial, we definitely need to have a lot of cultural competency. There's different cultures use psychedelics and different drugs differently than how mainstream Western culture uses those. And I feel that a lot of the times coming from like Western culture viewpoint, we kind of see it as something only for recreational use. And so I definitely think that that's something we have to keep in mind as medical and public health professionals, is looking at it from a more holistic viewpoint. A lot of the time, I feel like that why it isn't getting into these trials and why people are more hesitant to look at it, or even in the healthcare setting, when patients are coming in having used psychedelics, they might not be as open to letting their healthcare providers know that they're on certain medications or certain drugs, because there is that stigma for it. And so I feel like just having a more open mind when it comes to these different things is very important. I know that a lot of the times it's really hard to get certain things to go to trial, and it doesn't help when there's already this cultural barrier and this stigma around psychedelics. And so I definitely think, yeah, Rochelle's saying how ketamine has been in the news lately with the death of Matthew Perry. And so I definitely think that that's something that's very important. We see all of these different misuses of drugs. And yeah, we see all these different misuse and abuse with drugs. And so it can kind of be a little more cautious, even with we've seen with certain drugs, like even opioids and opiates. Sometimes we see only the negative sides and how they've had all of that negativity surrounding those drugs. And so I think people can be a little more guarded when it comes to even other substances like psychedelics, where we know less about them. And so I think just having an open mind and being willing to take those things to trial is very important, and having that cultural competency and that openness with knowing that certain things from other cultures have those like more anecdotal studies and those histories that we don't understand necessarily yet. I think that's very important, because sometimes I feel like through from a more like American Western viewpoint, we see like psychedelics as something like hippies used only recreationally, when we don't see the medical applications and potential there. Sorry, kind of
That's
went off.
very-
But yeah, I
No,
think
that
it's especially with like Shelly saying, it's really hard when we only see the negative like side of things. Where the only things in the news we're seeing is like, oh, people are drugged up or the overdoses. And so I think that it's hard to not see it's hard to see the good when all we see is the bad sometimes.
That's very true. Great point. Yeah, I think like you said, yeah, there are some lots of medicinal uses proven. And even some of the stuff that's illegal now was illegal even within America, for medicinal uses, and got recategorized for many reasons that I won't go into because this is not a political discussion. But yeah, so I think that is important to just kind of keep an open mind, like you said. And also that contribution from Shelley as well about ketamine and with Matthew Perry, I think that's also very important too. It's all about dosage. And I think the way to understand the dosage and to control that is kind of to just legalize a lot of this stuff, because when it's illegal, the people who push it illegally, they don't care how much you take. They want you to take more, actually, because that makes them more money. And then they also they don't care who they sell it to as well. So they'll sell it to children, they'll sell it to people who, like they'll sell it to anybody, right? Um, so that's where ethics can become an issue with me. That's where the ethics thing comes in, is, it should be controlled. I think if it's controlled, it's, for the most part, you don't hear about overdoses. You definitely hear more overdoses from clinical medicine, like the traditional clinical medicine. You hear more overdoses from that than you hear about people overdosing from shrooms. Or I've never heard of anybody overdosing from shrooms personally, but I'm sure someone's done it somewhere. I'm sure it's possible. You can overdose from too much water if you drink too much of it, right? So, Shelley, I don't know if we're still having the technical issues, but if you have any contributions, I just want to give you an opportunity as well. And okay, all right, I'll take it as we're still having the technical issues. If there are any things that you want to type in, go ahead and type them in. I'm not able to see what's typed in, but if anybody else sees it, you can feel free to repeat it for Shelley as well. So, personally, I've actually tried shrooms before. I tried them first on one of my birthdays, and I was just like, something fun to do. Let me just check it out. I will go ahead and confirm a lot of the things that it said. Your heightened senses. All we did was sit and watch Disney movies all day, and and the Disney movies were more vivid than I'd ever seen them in my life. So that's really all I got out of it. I didn't get any spiritual awakening or any of the other, I don't know, stuff that they say happens. I have a friend who swears by ayahuasca. She goes to Mexico and different other places all the time, and she takes it under with the shaman. So it's a very controlled environment, and it's a very spiritual thing for her. She says that she has these amazing interactions with spirits, basically spiritually. A lot of her ancestors, and she gets a lot of messages from the universe. I've never tried it, but this is what I've heard. I know Mike Tyson, I believe, swears by it. Swears by it. There are a couple other people who swear by it, like we already mentioned in this presentation. A lot of the world's biggest entrepreneurs, and maybe not world leaders, but a lot of the entrepreneurs for sure have definitely attributed ayahuasca and some other psychedelics to a lot of their outtakes and their outlooks on life. Anyway, I don't want to keep going here. So, questions 3 and 4. We'll move on to 3 and 4. What role can harm reduction strategies play in promoting safe and responsible psychedelic use, both in clinical and recreational settings? Harm reduction strategies like education and peer support, minimizing risks with psychedelics. In clinical settings, this means educating patients before and after treatment, monitoring safety, and offering support. Recreational harm reduction includes accurate drug info, drug checking services, and safe spaces for open discussions. Prioritizing harm reduction ensures safer psychedelic use and fewer adverse outcomes. Fourth question is going to be, how can psychedelic assisted therapy be integrated into existing mental health treatment modes, and what challenges might arise? Integrating psychedelic therapy into mental health care faces logistical, regulatory, and training hurdles. Professionals require specialized training for safe, effective administration, and systems must adopt for extended monitoring and specialized settings. Regulatory frameworks must evolve to enable legal access for therapeutic use. So, what roles can harm reduction strategies play? Oh, I'll read the question down here. Okay, what roles can harm reduction strategies play in promoting safe and responsible psychedelic use? And fourth question is, how can psychedelic assisted therapy be integrated into existing mental health treatment models? And what challenges might arise? All right, Crystal or Lily, if you have any input, feel free.
I do not have any specific input, as you know, this is all a brand new discussion to me. But Shelley did say in the chat box, everything that has been touched on are really great points. If natural products could be patented, we would have different discussions about psychedelics, more on the positive side, I believe. And I will just piggyback on that and say I believe that Shelley has, a really good point, that if natural products were patented and we were able to use them here in the United States, there would be different information and different discussions, and we may find that it would be more helpful than maybe pushing all of these antipsychotic drugs and all these other medicines that we're busy prescribing just because we're making more money. It's awful what health providers are doing just to make an extra buck off from the problems that we have as patients. So thank you for contributing that, Shelley.
Absolutely, that's a great contribution, I believe, Kelly. That's very true. If these things could be patented, we would definitely be having a different discussion. So it's harder to control a lot of these psychedelics. So it's all about control at the end of the day. Lily, any contribution? We're talking about
Um,
how psychedelic assisted
um,
therapy can be integrated into existing mental health treatment and promoting the safe and responsible psychedelic use.
I just think, adding on to that, that we need more like clinical studies and trials so that we can have more accurate information and share the information better. I feel like if we had like those more patents, more studies, and we knew more, or for those that know more, because for me, this is also a new topic, a new subject, that we could provide more accurate information. So I think definitely a role in playing in the harm reduction is definitely from like agencies and from healthcare providers who focus on health education, that we share more of this information. We shed light on the different studies that we have, because then it allows us to face, it lowers the stigma around it. And so there's less, um, it's less shameful and it's easier to integrate it into the clinical settings and into the mental health spaces. I feel like here there would be a lot of backlash in certain settings, because for certain like people, like for entrepreneurs and certain people like that, there's less of a stigma. For them it's something they might be comfortable with, but I feel like definitely for older generations and for people in certain areas, it's still definitely something that would make them uncomfortable. So I feel like focusing on how we share this information and focusing on getting newer, more updated and accurate studies with psychedelics and how they work and interact with the body, so that we have concrete information that we can share with the public, so that we can make it more of a comfortable and open discussion for everybody. I feel like that's the way that we can help integrate it into those more clinical settings and reduce harm when it comes to usage for the general public.
Absolutely, good point there. Good point. From my understanding, MDMA, you used to be able to go into a bar and order a beer with some MDMA. You know, it was that open and that freely distributed back in the days. Um, I don't know that there were a lot of, so basically to me, that's like a trial, whether it's clinical or not, I don't know, but that's research that was done over years. And I don't know that there were necessarily overdose problems with it. I think it was just changed a lot of um, for a lot of political reasons. That's why they changed it more so than people dropping dead and dying. I don't see a lot of reports of people dropping dead and dying from it back in the day. Same thing with shrooms, like I
No,
mentioned.
yeah, for sure. A lot of different drugs and different medicinal uses that are more natural. I feel like things, when they get so politicized, it makes them, we step back, it makes them way more controversial. I definitely think that that plays a big role in making it less of a political conversation. Sometimes it takes a little bit more literature on that. So I definitely think having people who are in those spaces that have been traditionally against it from like a more political standpoint definitely helps. Having them initiate some of those conversations, I feel like definitely helps too.
I wanted
Absolutely.
to add something. That's why.
Hello, Cynthia.
Yeah. So I know you guys were talking about Matthew Perry and the devastation about him being gone, and I think it was ketamine that they had determined that he had overdosed on. And what really shocked me, particularly about that, was when we went vegan, we got rid of the prescriptions in our own lives. We did that because of Matthew Perry and his documentary. We basically started Assuaged after watching his documentaries, and they're called The Big Lie, and I think they're on Amazon, and we featured them on our app. And Matthew Perry had talked about how detrimental and dangerous prescription drugs are, and how big pharma is. It's an industry, and I'm not going to sit here and say that we're against it, because I do think prescription drugs in many aspects serve a purpose, but it's the multitude of taking handfuls of pills that have all different kind of interactions, and just knowing the foundation of doctors mixing those kind of substances, and what medical and physical illnesses they can cause. It's very interesting to see that he kind of fell back on that, and I know right now there's actually been a series of arrests in his case for the people responsible for providing him with the substances, mocking him, making fun of him, charging him up to I think $2,000 a dose, whereas the typical dose is like $12. So I think these people are looking at getting like anywhere from 10 years. And, you have that black market, and, those dangerous individuals around whoever to take advantage of them. And I do not personally have experience with psychedelics, but I have smoked and done edibles and marijuana, which can carry its own benefits. But then, if you're smoking, it can carry some harms towards your lung health. So there's aspects of kind of getting a different induced high, not in the way I would say with psychedelics. I can't attest to that. I don't know. It's too scary for me, but maybe one day.
Yeah, that's a great point with the marijuana. Like there are many different ways to obviously enjoy marijuana or to take it. And yeah, smoking it, which is the most popular way that I know of, is probably the least healthy way to do it, because it definitely is going to do some damage to your lungs. Another thing that I also want to bring out and point out is that, we got to be careful with the use of the word natural and saying, oh, natural stuff, because cyanide is natural and it's a poison. So there are a lot of things and there's a lot of things that man has made that are actually pretty good for you as well, right? It's not like all the prescription drugs are terrible for you. I think it's all about dosage, and in the cases of some of the poisons that are natural, just knowing what's what. Um, and at the end of the day, I think that's the most important thing, is dosage. And the way that we get to that is basically, doing the trials in a controlled setting. And I think as long as it's done in a way that's not lying to people, like I mentioned with the Tuskegee experiment, that was just completely lying. It was a blatant lie. They told a lie. They didn't do what they said they were going to do. They did something completely different. So in those cases, unethical. But when you do stuff that you actually say you're going to do, I think it's ethical. I think it's right. And let's not forget that there are a lot of cultures that have relied on this for, you know, I don't know, thousands of years, I guess, going back many years. And they rely on it for different reasons, whether it's spiritual or health reasons. So I think it's just important to keep an open mind. And, you know, that's what I think Lilly said earlier. Um, and if it's not for you, that's fine too. Whatever makes you happy at the end of the day, as long as you're not hurting somebody else or yourself. All right. Do we have any other input here or any other contributions? Shelley, we just want to give you another opportunity if you have anything else that's going to be typed in at all. And yeah, if everyone else is all tapped out here, then I'm going to go ahead and thank you all for being a part of this conversation. And thank everybody who's tuned in online as well, who is going to listen to this conversation. And we just want to thank the Assuaged Foundation for putting this whole thing together, and the student team and everybody who contributed the slides. These are really, it's a lot of work that goes into putting this together. And we just want to thank you for all of that. So this has been our conversation on the journey into psychedelics and exploring psychedelics. And I hope that it will be helpful for some people, and that, you know, somebody out there can definitely take something back for this. Make sure to follow Assuaged at Assuaged app on all social media. So at Assuaged app, and check out assuaged.com for more information. Thank you very much, everybody.